היי.
שלום, שלום.
שלום, שלום, מה נשמע?
הכל בסדר. עכשיו הפודקאסט שלנו יהיה בעברית?
נכון, אז כל האמריקאים ששומעים את זה, סליחה.
לא, הם לומדים עברית. כאילו, הם אמריקאים, אבל אפשר להם לדבר בעברית, לשמוע, להבין.
They probably dropped off by now. That's my guess.
This is one of those things where you like see like the drop off and it's
Yeah,
like
analytics just second to switch to Hebrew. We made it to the Holy Land, so that's pretty crazy.
Hey, Aliza.
מה נשמע?
Wow. Are you Aliza? Are you Al?
It depends on if someone addresses me first in Hebrew. That's literally the determining factor. If someone speaks to me in English, I'm Allison. If someone speaks to me in Hebrew, I'm Aliza.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
Okay. When you sign your name in Hebrew, you sign your name Aliza or Alison?
It depends for what, but so far I've only signed in English.
Very fair.
Very
fair.
On all the documents, I'm like, I don't want any trouble here. This is the signature that is known.
Yeah. Yesterday, when we made Aliyah, on the documents, because when you get to Israel, they just do your transliterated name. So my full English name is Kevin Matthew Wolf. They don't ask you how you want to spell it. They do it with their rules of how they want to transliterate it. So the document said Kevin Wolf, but I was like, my Hebrew name is Meir. So I was signing Meir Wolf, and I'm like, it's okay that like I'm writing Meir and like it says Kevin. They're like, it's a signature. It's whatever you want.
Yeah, you can just write like, I like cheese. And they're like, that's your signature.
But I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, doesn't your signature have to be you signing your name, or it doesn't have to be?
I don't know. So. Your signature is Big Dimples, so you could just write Big Dimples. It's that could be good shtick in Israel.
It's not
Big Dimples.
It's not my chuckle or my shrug.
It's definitely the dimples.
Oh.
But everyone can write in the comments what they think Kevin's signature is. What's my signature?
Your signature?
Mm-hmm.
I think your signature is
How do you spell that? And what does that mean? You have to elaborate what that means, because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Like when someone says a good idea, you'll be like,
I do give it a little
You'll be like, I hear that. Say more.
Now, if anybody's really, really dedicated to this podcast, go ahead. Take all the clips from our podcast where I'm like, and then that could be my vocal signature. Voice signature.
Yeah, we gotta get like a theme song for the podcast.
It should just be my reflective sounds. Digitize it.
Digitize the... Yeah, something.
Auto-tune it?
Something with that.
I think we can come up with something better. And I can come up with a better signature.
Yeah. But I don't know, should we rename
I thought you were going to say, like, your signature is shakshuka.
Oh. Shakshuka. I don't know. Should we rename the podcast, though? Torah Mitzion, Torah Tel Aviv.
No, that already exists. Torah Tel Aviv is actually a kind of sick call.
Tel Aviv Torah. Torah Tel Avivi.
I don't know. The only thing is that there's probably going to be an organization that opens called Torah Tel Aviv.
Something like that. Yeah, I like Torah between us, but now we're doing all this Hebrew.
How do you say it in Hebrew? Torah Beinenu. Torah Beinenu. Doesn't sound as good.
It does sound as good.
Does it? Does that just mean Torah between us sounds bad, and also Torah Beinenu sounds bad?
No, because you're saying it in an American accent.
Torah Beinenu.
Okay.
The enunciation was probably off on that.
Yeah.
I also have to drop 3 octaves whenever I speak in like announcer Hebrew.
You get a deeper voice?
Yeah.
I also get a deeper voice.
There's something to it. Our voices are...
Hebrew's deep.
Yeah, Hebrew's deep.
It's our deeper voice. Our inner voice speaks in Hebrew.
Oh, I'm doing it. Shoot.
I told you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to erase that as my signature and never do it again.
Why? I like it. I like it as your signature.
Way too self-conscious. I feel like it's my way of like telling someone like, yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah, it's a good active listening.
But it's bad for interviews because interviewers are not supposed to interject.
Well, there is actually the person who wrote The Power of Habits, Charles Duhigg, he recently wrote a book called, I think, Super Communicators. And in the book, he talks about different like modes of conversation and how, I think that's the name of the book, Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. Should we keep referring to the audience? Go find this for us. They could be our podcast producers. Maybe we need a podcast producer. But one thing that's interesting is he mentions how originally when the phone came out that they thought people were only going to use it for very tachlis. Tachlis means?
Tachlis.
Which means?
Practical.
Right, like practical, pragmatic, like, I don't know, utilitarian, like purposes. So like people would have a phone call like, here, write this down, write down this list or something. Or, this is this person's name. And that people wouldn't have meaningful conversations. But eventually people started using the phone and knowing how to do it as a like way of having real conversations. So there's something about different modality that affects the way that you communicate. So on phone calls, for example, people who are super communicators tend to speak louder or to do like because they want people to know that they're engaged or listening or things like that. But
that's also like something that people do sometimes when they're not listening and they're like, yeah.
That's if you're a super communicator and you know the things that make other people think that you're listening. But he was having a conversation with Russ Roberts on Econ Talk. Shout out to Ezra Roberts' father, Russ, and his show. And in it, he was saying, the interviewer said that like, I generally like to interject and to like have banter, but like on Zoom, because of the delay,
it's awful.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't like have the banter. But if you're in person, you can, because people can still hear it.
Right.
But it only works if the timing is right.
Mm-hmm.
So probably, and it's even different with like phone calls versus Zoom, with the camera on versus camera off. I don't know, all these things. How to interject, whether to not interject. How to have good conversations.
Yeah, and also it's really important to have like your signature. So your dimples, if your camera's off, it's not working for you.
Okay. So maybe we have to add video to it.
Oh, no, I take it back. Sorry, everybody. No dimples for you. I think I've said that on this podcast before.
About?
Your dimples.
No, you talked about how you never want to record the podcast with video because you like doing the podcast in your pajamas.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
But it's...
granted, half the times we do the podcast, it's not before Shabbos. It's usually Motzei Shabbos, so yeah, I'm in my pajamas.
Yeah, Motzei Shabbos is prime pajama time. But two things that I'm thinking about just when talking about communication is, one, in the Super Communicators book, he mentions how the people who are really proficient communicators are people who think like half an inch deeper about communication. Like they don't just talk to someone. They're like, how do I, not in like a strategic way, but like in like a thoughtful way of being curious. How can I have this be a meaningful conversation and not just like a stam conversation? What's a way to ask better questions, to form deeper connections quicker with people? And having just that thoughtfulness can really elevate your communication
Absolutely.
game. I don't know. I think it's something that we think about a lot with like...
Too much.
Too much?
For me, at least.
Oh.
I think I'm more thoughtful than... Before I go into conversation, sometimes I'm like, okay, like, how should I say this? Or what should I be, like, what's a good thing to say to this person? I'm going to see them.
And there was a study that they did at Harvard where where they asked people for 10 seconds to just write down a few topics that they might want to talk about with a random stranger. And they had them just write down 3 items. And then they had a control group where they didn't ask them to do that. And most of the time, the people didn't even speak about what they wrote down, but they had better conversations because they were thinking about, like, oh, this conversation. The other people just kind of...
Right.
So just having, like, a little bit of intentionality, or, for example, preparing for an interview, even if you don't speak about what you were planning on speaking about, like, it gives you a better level of comfort to be able to speak about something. So you feel more comfortable, less anxious in the conversation.
Totally. But I also get mad at myself when if I don't think ahead of time, because we see so many people. So, and also sorry if you hear blow drying in the background. That's Israel for you, thin walls. If I don't mention something to someone and I realize it after, like, oh my gosh, I should have asked them about their trip to Jamaica, or I should have, this person's sibling got married. Wow, I can't believe I didn't ask them. Like, I feel bad about it. Like, I'm like, I should be, like, these are important moments in people's lives. They're interesting times. Like, it's sad if you just miss that opportunity. If it's because a lot of also the last couple of conversations when we were at MJE, like, they're very us focused because of our Aliyah. Like, oh, you're still here? Like, yeah, we made Aliyah. So
when did you do that?
Yeah, so let's talk about that instead of over communicating for the people that are still here. 11 minutes deep.
Yeah.
What parsha is it?
It is Parshat Ki Tisa, and there is a lot of miscommunication that does happen because Moshe does go up on the mountain. He makes the luchot, then they build the golden calf, and so there were Aaron's trying to, like, potentially calm the crowd, but then he ends up helping them build the golden calf. So there's a lot of miscommunication, and Hashem's communicating with Moshe, and Moshe's communicating.
So the takeaways for that are: let's communicate better. Prepare before your conversations. Think ahead of time. Just 2 seconds to yourself. Oh, what should I think about when I go up and speak to this person? How can I have better conversations?
Be transparent that, hey, I'm not down to make this idol. Don't try to use it as, like, a stalling tactic.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
That's a really big one.
Say what you mean to say.
Don't go stealing your wife's jewelry and donate it to a cause that's really not kosher.
Yeah, well, they used their own jewelry. Also, the men had jewelry.
Yeah, go buy some jewelry, men.
Yeah.
And use it for a holy purpose.
It is interesting, though, that specifically the jewelry that they take is the earrings, potentially nose rings also, but there's something about, like, taking something from your ears and then throwing it towards a golden calf, and it's like these ears that heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that, like, I am Hashem your God, are now making this false god. And
and then if you move forward, there's the laws about the Eved Ivri, like the Canaanite servant, and that if someone who's an Ivri a Hebrew who wants to stay with his master after 7 years, when typically every 7 years the Ivrim are able to go free, they are able to stay if they pierce their ear, which is the acknowledgement of there's a master above my direct master that I'm serving at this moment.
But that they're choosing to kind of stay as an indentured person rather than going free. So something also, it's like maybe an acknowledgement, but maybe the opposite of an acknowledgement, like an inability to listen, so that therefore their ear needs to be pierced. But there's
a lot there. We'll get there in the future parshas.
Yeah.
Or we won't.
Who knows?
But we got here. So how is it getting here? How is it getting to Eretz Yisrael?
It was really sweet and sad, and I don't know, just difficult saying bye to some friends who won't be able to be around them and their kids as much, because people grow, people change, but, like, I don't know, you see people's kids and they, like, time to time, if you don't see 2-month-old for 2 months, they just doubled their lifespan. They have a whole new thing. So, and then they're not going to be around Eden, and Eden keeps getting new tricks. So those were sad. but also sentimental, like sweet. And so there were some tears, but that helped me. They say tears are an inner mikvah, so felt like a good purification process to get that out a little bit, and now to be here.
Yeah.
How's it been for you? How were your goodbyes? How was your journey?
My goodbyes were okay. I also saw a couple of my best friends the weekend before we left, and it's very sad to say bye to them, but also like exciting. And this is something that they've seen me through this whole process of like talking about wanting to move to Israel, going for the year, going during high school for an exchange program, right? Like all of these big moments in my life that have shaped my direction to actually finally getting here, and them being able to send me off. It was in like just a few days before we left. So that was really special. And it's also amazing to see where they are now, and exciting to just to continue to follow everybody in their journeys. It's really cool when there are these big life moments that happen. You're like, wow, we are living and we are doing and we are deciding. It's like it's powerful.
Does it feel like a permanent decision?
I don't know. I'm 24 hours in, but it's definitely permanent in the sense of we did it, we're here, and that's something that I felt like I owed you, and I owed myself, and I owed Eden, and that debt is paid off. And that's incredibly powerful to be able to say. If I believe like the Jewish people believe in their Jewish homeland, we are here, and I did my part, that's permanent.
Yeah. What do you mean by you did your part? Like you did your part in becoming a citizen? You did your part in moving your family here?
Yeah, I did my part in becoming a citizen, in contributing to the growth of the Jewish people in our Jewish homeland, and
so far
trying
we've
to
just
make it work.
been takers. I mean, you go to the airport, they give you 5,250 shekel when you land. They give you a SIM card.
Kesef sofrim pamayim. The guy handed Kevin money, and he's like, Kesef sofrim pamayim, which means money you count twice. And he started counting it in front of him. He's like, yeah, okay.
It was the right amount. So, I'm thinking about like...
I don't feel like a taker at all.
Good.
I don't feel like a taker at all. And also, shout out to like Nefesh B'Nefesh, who sent the sweetest volunteer. Who also, so I get off the plane. So what happens? We get off the plane. I go first because Kevin's looking for his AirPods, and
they were in my pocket.
They were in his pocket, but he did check
a few times. Deep jeans pockets.
What are we gonna wear next time on the plane?
I think the same.
Fanny packs.
I think
the answer is fanny pack. That's going to be your new signature. Okay. Everything goes in the fanny pack.
At Camp Stone, they are very into fanny packs.
Great. Let's do it. So I take Eden off the plane, and right as we get off like the bridge from the plane to the airport, there's a woman waiting for us, and she has a sign saying like, welcome Olim. And I'm like, that's me! And I go up to her and I'm like, wait, I totally stayed at your house for Shabbos 8 years ago. And she's like, no way. So it's just like one of those funny things where I went with a friend to Modi'in for Shabbat. Shout out to the Zaks family. And she's like, totally remember you. It's coming back to me. Like, I remember you with hair because I was wearing a hat. So I'm like, yeah, that definitely checks out.
There is hat under the hair, though.
Yes.
Or hair under the
hat. No, there's
hat.
no hat under the hair. There's no hat under the hair. Yeah, no, that's not a thing. But it was just so great to like see a familiar, sweet, warm face right off the bat. And then eventually Kevin checked his pockets better, and then he joined us, and it was relatively smooth sailing from there.
I mean, someone did take our carry-on bag, so I had to like run down, and he was on his way back, and I was running there.
They looked nothing alike. I've had people take bags at the gate at the carousel, but never from the airplane.
Yeah,
we were also the last two people basically on the plane, and he took the wrong bag.
Yeah.
Because when I left the plane, our bag was still up there, and I already let most people off.
Yeah.
So that was really crazy. The only thing that looked like was that we had crazy ribbons hanging off of the bag, but otherwise ours was black. His was like a denim.
He was a little bit of a confused older man.
Yeah. And it wasn't his bag, because Kevin called the number on the bag. And he was like, what? And then he called his buddy who was carrying the bag. So I guess it makes sense. There were ribbons.
Something like that.
Weird that people would... And also these ribbons are kind of like old and crumply and like weird colors. And he had the same weird couple... Like it happened to be that, okay, maybe the identifier that he held on to was like, who else is going to have these crazy ribbons? And it's like, wait, ours were. And we were right next to each other.
Yeah.
But Kevin caught him right even before we...
We got it. We got
Yeah.
the bag back.
Kevin sprung into action.
But then at the Aliyah office, we got there, which was super nice. They helped us with our bags, which we were schlepping a lot of things. And then we took a nice picture with a flag.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw someone else who we knew. One of my rabbis from Yeshiva's daughter was working in the Aliyah office, and she was also super helpful, and she was holding Eden's hands and walking with her. And I don't know.
And translating.
And there's something sweet about in Israel, like you lose some family, but you also gain like an extended family.
Totally.
So those were seeing someone we knew right as we got off the plane.
Mamish.
Seeing someone in the Aliyah office who helped us out and who was like so sweet to Eden. So. And
then we got a party bus.
Yeah.
They ordered us a party bus. So the whole fam came when we actually got out of like the customs area. Then Kevin's family was waiting for us, and our friend Ev, who came to Israel a couple of days earlier.
And that was also a sweet thing,
so
like
sweet.
Seeing my brother who made Aliyah. So my sister lives in America. My brother lives in Israel, and then 2 other siblings. We'll see where they end up. And then one of my best friends seeing us at the airport. So it was like leaving family, but also being welcomed by family, leaving friends, but also being welcomed by friends.
Yeah.
So there's yesh v'yesh.
Yeah. It was so funny when we were leaving America. So Kevin's sister and brother-in-law surprised us. We said bye to them on Sunday, which was emotional. And she's due next month, so we feel...
Less than a month.
Yeah. We feel really sad that we're not going to be able to be there for the birth and to just give to them when they were and are so helpful and sweet and kind and like just beyond with Eden. So it's really sad. But they surprised us at the airport, so then I lost it. but so I lost it, and then I said goodbye to my parents, and I said goodbye to Kevin's dad. And then when we went to...
And Eden wouldn't let her go. Like, wouldn't let my brother-in-law, Chesky, go. He was like, Chiki, Chiki, Chiki. Which is what Eden calls Chesky.
Yeah.
Which was so sweet. But then, when we got to the airport, she was so happy to see Lindsay. And she was like, Lindsay, Lindsay, Lindsay.
Yeah.
So...
But I was just going to say that immediately after that, when we went to go say, hi, we don't have bombs on us, before we could check in our bags... she's like, why are you crying? Don't cry. It's going to be good. I'm just like, I feel like I'm allowed to cry now. I know it's going to be good, and I want to cry. I feel like I need to let it out a little. I didn't want to tell her that I wasn't going to get in a fight with El Ali. But a part of me was like, don't tell Ali, like, you know we're making Aliyah, like, don't tell me not to cry. This is my time to cry. I need it.
But last night, I went to a hackathon. There's this Nouveau network.
Yes, it is crazy that the day that we landed, he went to hackathon. Let's acknowledge that for a minute.
And at this Olim hackathon, which was like focused on how to like build back Israel better.
Don't say build back better.
Isn't
that another slogan?
That was something like that. But it was like, how do we build tomorrow? I don't know what it was. But I saw a friend there. And they were like, the people who were checking me in were like, wait, you made Aliyah a few hours ago? How are you here? Like, what are you doing? And they were like, when I made Aliyah, I was like crying. I was a mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, yeah.
I'm just incredibly well adjusted.
I'm like, thankfully, my wife, my daughter took care of a few things. And they were like, oh, you also must know people if you're here at this event. I was like, yeah,
that is certainly true.
I know Michelle. I know some other people. So they were surprised that it wasn't crying on the other side.
I mean, I'm sure the tears will come. We haven't done everything. We lost one of our luggage pieces, but it's fine. It'll all come through.
Misplaced.
And worst comes to worst, we buy new stuff. Support the Israeli economy. See, we're not just takers.
This is true. But yeah. Unfortunately, before hopped on, heard some upsetting news that there were a bunch of injuries of soldiers and a few soldiers who were killed. So feels important to be here in Israel and to be here on Shabbat davening and praying that it's a quiet Shabbat and a secure Shabbat, and that we hear good news and peace returns to the land.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye, guys. Shabbat shalom. Speak to you next week.